Thinking about moving to Brooklyn, New York? This is the episode for you. I've got Marcia.Dufresne right beside me. Say hello, Marcia.
Hey.
This is Wanna Move There, the show dedicated to giving all humans the information they need to decide whether or not they want to move somewhere outside of the area they live, or if they just want to go on vacation somewhere, need a tour guide, need to know what to hit up when they go somewhere. This could help them out. I am your host, DerekBicksler, realtor of 15 years here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I grew up on the Hill in Harrisburg, went to Mechanicsburg High School in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and went up to college at Penn College of Technology in Williamsport. You guessed it, Pennsylvania, born and raised here all my life, never going to leave. We'll never say never, but probably not for a while because I got some young kids to stick around for. Call me if you need to buy or sell a home. You can call me, text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. Reach out to me. I want to hear from you and help you buy or sell a home. And whether you're watching live or on a replay, ask a question in the comments. Or if you know Marcia or myself, please say what's up in the comments and say where you are watching or listening from. And a reminder that all the replays are on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, all the audio places, all the video places. So wherever you like to consume your content, it will be sitting, waiting for you there. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and tap the little bell so you can get notified every time I come out with a new episode. To learn what it's like to move other places other than where you live. That's the first time I added that little subscribe note in there, Marcia, just on the fly there. So I feel like I messed it up, but whatever. So without further ado, we will bring in Marcia.Dufresne, realtor in Brooklyn, New York. Say what's up again, say hello again, and tell everybody the last movie you watched while I pull up your bio.
All right, in true Brooklyn style, what up? I'm Marcia.Dufresne out of Brooklyn, New York. Last movie I watched in the theaters was The Matrix Resurrection. I love this series. The Cap Sam was a little disappointed, but the movie I really loved that I watched recently was The Tender Bar on Netflix. So it's starring Ben Affleck, where it's based on a memoir, and it's about a young coming-of-age story in Boston, and of it's called the Tender Bar because his Uncle Charlie, who is technically Ben Affleck, he's a bartender. So it's a play on the words, but it was such a good movie. I would check it out.
I saw it. Netflix is kind of shoving it in my face every time I open the app, and I noticed the play on words there. So it's good. You should watch it.
Well, it was good. I really liked it.
What is it? R? PG-13?
I don't pay attention. My boys are older now. I don't pay attention to the ratings.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. You just turn whatever on. I gotta check it, make sure who's around.
Maybe there was. Yeah, check it.
All good. And then The Matrix, you said it didn't quite live up to the originals. I also saw it, and I would agree. Why was that the case for you?
Okay, so Matrix, you want to see something new. I felt they gave us a lot of what we've seen before. I don't think I've seen anything new. And I don't know, I think they kind of make Neo look like a old doofus.
Yeah, I agree. It was way too many callbacks, way too much very contrived and trying to play to like me and the people that used to like it. Just make a new cool movie. You don't have to maybe have him in it. I didn't even expect him to be in it, quite frankly. I didn't even see any trailers or anything. I just kind of went to see it on a whim.
I wanted to be totally surprised, so I didn't look at anything. Yeah, but I was disappointed. I'm like, give us something new. I mean, when we saw the first one with Trinity run up that wall, we were all blown away.
Yeah, when the effects were brand new and they were the first to do it, it was nutso. And I think it was out in 3D. I didn't see it in 3D. Did you see it in 3D?
No, regular. No, but you know what? They weren't even playing it in the 3D theater where I went. Spider-Man is out at the same time, so Spider-Man got the top theaters where we are here in Brooklyn.
So is there a particular theater that you go to in Brooklyn to see a movie?
Oh man, yeah. So well, as of last week it closed. It's been here for years. So the Regal, for you guys who don't know, the UA on Regal and UA on Court Street, the Regal closed, gone. That's the biggest theater here that we go to. The other theaters we have, it's like at City Point, or there are a couple of them now that are the dine-in theaters. But I mean, that was one of the other ones. There's another theater on Court Street, the Cobble Hill Theater. It's a little smaller, regular. I'm not sure if they moved to dine-in as yet. But yeah, that theater was the major theater. I'm hoping another theater buys it and opens there, but it'll be a huge loss for our community.
Huh. Yeah. So So the dine-in theaters, they have like big lounge chairs, or is it bar seating, or what's
Some
that?
of,
What are those
some
places
of
like?
them, no, well, some of them have lounge chairs, but some of them you just have like a little table here on the side, and you order drinks and food. So you have alcohol, which I think is kind of distracting because if I'm eating, I'm not paying attention. I can miss something.
Right, right. A nice popcorn that you don't have to pay attention to. You
Yeah.
can just grab and shove in your mouth is good, but more than
But they're
that might
serving
be.
burgers, they're serving, entrees.
Huh, good date, I guess. But and so the regular theaters, do you have those big lounge ones? Like around here, a couple of the places, the newer places, have the big lounge chairs that go back and forth. It's super wide. Even if there's somebody beside you, you're not fighting over the armrest or anything. If you are a couple,
No.
the armrest goes up to make a love seat too. So I will only go to the theater that has those here. Do you have those there or not? Hasn't
So
hit there.
we have a large one like that. I'm sorry, I kind of lost my plug for my computer. We have a large one like that in Manhattan, and they kind of make it a little cozy in Brooklyn as well, but not that cozy.
And how much do movies cost in New
Oh
York?
yeah. What are they? $17, 17, $18 per person now? Maybe 16 something. It's expensive to
Yeah.
go to the movies, especially if you're going with your kids.
Yeah, totally. You go. I usually go by myself. I'll treat myself to a afternoon matinee. I usually like seeing Star Wars in 3D. That's my jam. And then you get so the movie's not bad. It's $7 or $8, so it's maybe double there. But then you put in the popcorn, and I gotta treat myself while I'm there. That's part of the whole experience, and it ends up being $30 instead of $8. So actually, I have now a hack. I'll take a fanny pack basically, but a little man pack so I can take my own snacks in and save on a little bit of that because I like to go
Yeah,
to the movies. But
I know
all right,
someone
that's
who does
awesome.
that. Yeah.
And or I mean, I'm divorced now, and I've said that before, so I can't use my wife's purse as the way to get things in there. Which I mean, women, you already have something there. I gotta come up with something that's acceptable for me to carry in as a
Knapsack.
dude.
Guys carry knapsacks all the time.
Yeah, totally. And I'm going to pull up your bio and tell everybody a little bit more about you. You grew up in Guyana in South America. You came here as a teen and lived in the Bronx. What was that like in the Bronx? So, what's the difference between the Bronx and Brooklyn? Because I feel like a lot of people might mix those up or think they're the same thing or something that are from somewhere else.
Well, I mean, the culture in the Bronx and Brooklyn is different. When I grew up in the Bronx, I grew up in the Bronx in the 80s. So you had the rap culture coming up, and every borough was battling, we were the boogie down Bronx, and, your do or die Bed-Stuy, which I don't want to do or die, but I like Bed-Stuy. But
Is that's Rosie Perez and Jenny? Are they're from the
uh,
Bronx, right?
yeah, Rosie, yep, they're both from the Bronx. Well, I
Jennifer
mean, the Bronx,
Lopez.
it's a different culture. It's a different feel. In the Bronx, there are a lot of different parts of the Bronx. You have your high rises, and then you have your homes further out. But it's mostly a lot of large buildings. Whereas Brooklyn, you have your cool little brownstone areas. You have Prospect Park. But the Bronx has Yankee Stadium, so maybe
And still Yankee Stadium, they haven't moved it or built a new one or anything?
they built a new one literally like across the street.
But is the old one's still there or did they implode it?
I'm not sure. I should know, but I don't. Not a big sports fan. Sorry.
If they do implode it, you got to go watch that. I watched one they office building they imploded here and it was pretty cool and I got it on video and my daughter loves watching it. It was pretty cool. But you got to run. They tell you there's a black like the plume of smoke's going to come, it will come and you will run. It's pretty crazy.
No, I
So you
was
grew
I was around the World Trade Center 9/11, so I will not be going where any plume of smoke will be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't need
I
to
can
get
see.
triggered with any buildings falling. So don't say that to any New Yorkers about going to watch buildings falling. Yeah.
This is
If
true.
you were
This
around
is
that
true.
time, we
Sorry.
don't want to be reminded.
My apologies to yeah. Never forget, isn't that? And I forgot. So yeah, my apologies out there for all the New Yorkers. That was a little bit insensitive, but you get my
I
drift.
know.
So you grew up in the Bronx and you went to the High School of the Performing Arts, where the movie Fame was filmed as a dance major. So you were a dance major there, and the show or the movie Fame was it a show too?
It was a show. I don't know where the show was filmed, but yeah, I was there and they had filmed the movie there. I was actually one of the last occupants of the High School Performing Arts because they merged us with LaGuardia. They merged us with the High School of Music and Art into the Friarello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and the Performing Arts. That's now up by Lincoln Center. So both schools spent 2 years in our respective hallway schools, and then we merged into LaGuardia. So we were the first occupants of LaGuardia.
Huh. And do you have to be a resident of somewhere around there to go to those schools, or do people move there to go to those schools? Are they sought after places? Can people from other places go to those schools? What's the deal?
I think it's a New York City high school, so I'm assuming you need to be a New York City resident, but it's by audition. So you audition to get in, and you have to do a little dance routine or music or violin or a little monologue, whatever your talent is, and then you make it or you don't.
Gotcha. And there's only a certain number. So it's part of the school system, and you just have to apply to go there if you want to do something with the arts. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So did you make it? Do you do it as a freshman?
Yeah.
What if you didn't make it as a freshman? Can you try it your junior, senior year?
I think there were maybe a few spots open sophomore year, but I don't think they'd like to get you in after that because we're really disciplined about you following the structure or being ready. So.
And what kind of dance did you do?
I did back then. It was called modern dance. Now they call it contemporary. But we were based in the Graham School, the Martha Graham technique. But we were, even if you're a modern major, you still took ballet. And after school, I was actually part of the Bronx Dance Theater for a while. So I'd go to school, then go to dance class for 3 or 4 hours, then go home, homework, and so from the Bronx, we took the subway into Manhattan because it was in the middle of Times Square. We were on 43rd Street near
Wow.
Times Square back in the 80s. So if you could only imagine what was happening around our school area at that time.
Was that back when it was bad, quote unquote? Or
Seedy.
before
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Seedy is the word you're looking for.
Yes, there you go, CED. And then you also went to university in Manhattan at Pace. Did you do dance there? Do they have dance things in places like that?
I mean, they had dance. I think they have dance. Pace is a business school. They have the fashion club. Actually, the fashion club is where I met my ex-husband. But that's another story. I went to Pace downtown, and I actually lived on campus. So I went from the Bronx to downtown Manhattan. That's when the Seaport was the old Seaport, but when it didn't get washed away by Sandy. And the Seaport was our backdrop. All of the clubs in the city was our hangouts. And back then, the drinking age was still 18. So we were in all of the clubs, on the weekends and hanging out. So it was actually, it was good. And from downtown Manhattan, that's when I moved to Brooklyn. So I had my first apartment with one of my roommates, one of my friends from college, and I ended up staying.
Awesome. You loved it so much you couldn't leave. And you said you studied business management at college, and your favorite color is red, which I told you is also mine. If you had to pick a second favorite one, I told you I'm making everybody that says blue. You did not. Thankfully, you did not say blue, but I'm making everybody that says blue to give me a second one. So why not ask you what your second runner-up would be? So
black? You get a lot of black and red.
Okay. Do you wear a lot of black?
I wear a lot of black, yes.
And you have red on right now, right? Is that red or is that orange?
It is red.
Nice, bright red, which I like. It stands out. People notice it. Love it. And your favorite food is flan, which is the bomb. Tell everybody what flan is if they don't know. And I will tell everybody. Have you ever seen, what's that movie called? Envy with Jack Black and Ben Stiller? Probably not.
No.
It's a movie. The one Jack Black invents Vaporize, which is a spray that makes dog poop just disappear,
God,
or any
yes,
poop just
yes.
disappear. You saw that?
I
And when
saw
they
that.
got rich, all they ate every night, they had flan for dessert every night. And
I
I
saw
like flan too. So tell everybody what flan is.
Well, flan, if you custard or pudding, if you know what pudding is, your Jello pudding that you get from the store. Flan is kind of like a pudding, but it has a sugar crust on the top because it's flambéed. They flame it basically. Well, actually, no. Now I'm thinking about creme brulee. I'm getting my flans mixed up. Creme brulee used to be my favorite. Now I was trying to sneak in. No, so flan is not flambé at the top. It's now a good flan. If you get a good flan, like up in the Bronx flan, it's bitter. Now that's a good flan. If your flan is not slightly bitter, then you don't have an authentic flan. Not from the Puerto Rican flan that we got, up in the Bronx. So that's where I got hooked on my flan.
Okay, yeah, and actually, I was confusing it
The
with the
creme
sugar on
brulee.
the top too. Yeah,
Uh,
totally. And I even know. All right, yes, but I have had it. I've had it without that too. But I'm glad I asked you too because I was myself envisioning the wrong thing. So, do you have pets? No pets. Have you ever had pets?
cats growing up, but yeah, my son's allergic to dogs and stuff, so no pets right now.
And not are there big yards where you live?
So depending if you have a brownstone, you can have a yard that's like 60 feet because most of our brownstones are on lots that are the average brownstone is like 20 by 100, and then your house is only maybe 20 by 40 or 45. So the rest of that is backyard space.
Gotcha. So you could have a yard at least enough for something to go to the bathroom and run
True.
around a little bit. But most
Yeah.
people with pets that need walking go for walks a lot,
Oh my
probably.
God. Everyone has a pet in New York. Yes, but in Brooklyn, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're dodging poop stains on the sidewalk. But everyone has a pet. Everyone has a dog. Everyone and most buildings allow them. I mean, unless you're going for a co-op, they don't like those dogs that are over 25 pounds. But yeah, a lot of people have dogs in the city. You would think that they wouldn't, but nope. Lots of apartment dogs, city
Huh.
dogs.
Great market for vaporize. Whoever invents the actual vaporize, Brooklyn, waiting for you to go conquer
Yeah,
the market
please,
there.
please invent it, please.
We have goose poop here. If you so you can't. There's this nice riverfront running path, which is still nice, and I do it, or I rollerblade on it because I can't run anymore.
Mhm.
But you can't. Most of the time, the geese there's poop just everywhere, all over the place. So I never take the kids there because I'm smart enough to avoid it or whatever. But they just walk all over it, walk right through it. It's pretty disgusting. So I feel
Wow.
you on that. And you have two kids. Two boys, 18-year-old freshman in college and a 16-year-old junior in high school. Where does the 18-year-old go?
He goes to Fordham University in the Manhattan campus. So there's a campus in Fordham in the Bronx, actually, a very large campus, beautiful campus. And there's a campus at Lincoln Center in Manhattan. That's where he's at. And his school is literally 2 blocks away from LaGuardia, my high school.
Huh. And then is that where the 16-year-old goes? Did he
And
follow in your
no,
footsteps?
no, he goes here in Brooklyn. He goes to a charter school that's they have an IB program, the International Baccalaureate program. So he's part of that program at the high school.
Nice. And then your 18-year-old, does he commute or is that a thing? Do people usually
Oh yeah,
commute?
yeah. Most people who live in the city are commuting. Well, I didn't, but most people who are living in the city are commuting to college.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? The cost savings would be a lot, I would
Yes,
think.
yeah.
I'm sure he would like to, but
He would, I mean, if we're able to treat him to it, maybe his junior year, I think it's an experience that I really would like him to have it. So if we're able to do that for him, I'd like to.
yeah, that'd be awesome. And you're still close enough. He would still be home like every day to grab some food and get takeout.
Well, no, it's about, I mean, door to door, it's about 45 minutes on the train.
Okay. And does everybody use the train? We'll talk about it more a little bit, but he uses the train to commute back and forth
Oh,
for
yeah.
college? Gotcha. And your hobbies are binge watching shows and dancing around the house. So let's talk about the binge watching the shows first. What's the last show you lost? I think what'd you say? Bartender, the Tender Bar was the last movie you watched on Netflix, but what was the last show you
Okay,
binged?
so we have to talk about Dexter. Have you ever watched Dexter?
Uh, I hesitate to say that I sometimes feel a little bit like Dexter, like I'm pretending to be the way a human should be.
So you're familiar, right? So they did the
Yes.
Dexter reboot. When they ended the last time, he was off somewhere in the Canadian woods being a lumberjack or something. We assume they bring him back for one season, and then I mean, if you love Dexter, you must watch it. And I won't talk about anything about the ending. But yeah, Dexter is one of the series I just finished up. Yeah.
So it's back. They just did a new
Yeah,
season.
it's called Dexter New Blood, and 10 episodes recently finished up. And if you're a fan, I would say absolutely watch it. We're clearly hoping for more, but who knows? They're saying Showtime has not agreed to do more. At least that's what the producer is saying, the creator. But who knows? Maybe they will. And I'm actually enjoying the Sex and the City reboot. So lots of reboots.
Huh. So are those on Showtime and
And
what's the other
HBO.
one?
Dexter
HBO Max?
series on HBO Max, and then Dexter's on Showtime. And for my Ray Donovan fans, we just had a Ray Donovan movie to wrap up the series. So that was kind of cool. You know, instead of them bringing back the series and giving us some BS for how many episodes, they did a movie, and I think they wrapped it up nicely. So my Ray
Yeah, that's
Donovan
awesome.
fans, that dropped last week.
So what's Ray Donovan? Is that Showtime? That's Showtime.
Ray Donovan Showtime as well.
Yeah, yeah. I got all the streaming things and I've almost caved and gotten HBO Max because there was a while there that I like watched everything.
Mhm.
But now I think enough has built up that I could get it and I'll have enough series that I haven't watched for a while that I could binge and have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because then Netflix kind of seeing everything I like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I
All
think I
right, cool.
finished Netflix.
And then dancing around the house. Are these doing like TikToks, or you just
Oh
like to
no, no.
dance with
I
no
mean,
music playing, or what do you do there?
No, I still love to dance. I love music. I love it. My mom exposed us to different types of music growing up. So I mean, I love music. And coming from Guyana, we're technically Caribbean, but we're also Guyana's a country mixed with, it's Black and Indians and indigenous people, but East Indians from India. So I'm a mix. I'm Black and East Indian, and we're technically considered Caribbean. So that's my culture. So I love my Caribbean music. I love my Bollywood music. I love every type of music. So since dancing is still in my heart because I'm still a dancer at heart. So one of my favorite things to do is just put on some music and dance. I haven't gotten in front of the camera yet, but you may see me doing some TikTok dances soon to some real estate stuff. Who knows?
There you go. Do it on TikTok where nobody really sees it, or at least if you don't want them to see it, they might not see it. But then, but then
So we want
throw it
them
on
to see.
Facebook and
Isn't
all
the
the other
point of
places.
TikTok to go viral? Like I would like to go viral.
Yeah, I guess so. You're right. Totally. All right. And I'm going to bring up the map now and we can start talking about. Well, actually, while I find my map here, tell everybody how you got into real estate, what you did from like college to now, real quick.
All right, so real quick, out of college, actually got into cash management, which if you have a bank account and you do anything with your bank account, that's cash management. But I did it for companies. So every single company in America has hundreds of accounts. I actually worked for, interesting story. So I worked for Viacom in the cash management department. And one of my responsibilities back when Mike Tyson would fight, we would get a letter of credit for Don King. And I had to make sure that Don King got his money on Monday morning so Mike didn't beat his whatever if he didn't get his money. So that was one of the cool things I did as a cash manager starting out. And then I managed the bank account for like American Express for like 12 years. And then I actually, but on the flip side, I recently worked for JP Morgan, managing a team who implemented all those same services that I utilized back at American Express. I'm technically a certified, a CTP, certified treasury professional. I kind of got burnt out after a while and took some time off. And this is where real estate really came in and was a savior for me because my ex-husband and I, one of our first homes we purchased was in technically the Guyana area, but it's like half a block from the border of Park Slope. So we bought a 4-family. People would have ran out of it, bought it really cheap, got renovated it, bought our second building like 3 or 4 years later. And so I was a landlord. Did the whole gut renovation thing, rented out, and then when I wanted to get out of corporate America, I actually sold my home, and the sale of that home allowed me to take some time off, be at home with the kids. So, and I mean that home allowed us to get our second home, live a wonderful lifestyle. So I think not realizing that real estate played such a big part in my life when it was time for me to go back, okay, I needed to get back out to work. I wasn't even thinking real estate was a skill. So I'm trying to think like, what can I do? Like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And finally, I have a girlfriend, Mildred, who's an excellent real estate agent down in Florida. So I was talking to Mildred and I'm like, you know what? I should just get my license. I decided in March. I had my license by April, and I started initially with Corcoran in July of 2019. So I came in right before everything. Sold my first townhouse by the end of 2019, and here comes, COVID in March of
That's great
2020.
though. So your first experience in real estate was as a landlord, and I'm surprised some people get a sour taste in their mouth with that, and they run for the hills for anything having to do with real estate. But you
Oh,
had a good experience. It sounds like you made a little bit of money on that first investment, which you can get by doing that sweat equity, like you said, and then I could relate too. If you're out of the workforce for a while, and then you try to go get a job. There was years ago. I've been doing this a while, and there were years ago when I tried to look for a real job, and these skills don't translate to anything else. I can't make as much money anywhere else, yada yada, nor have the freedom or anything. It took a little bit of looking around to decide that actually this is pretty good. So and that was a while ago also, but I could feel you on that. All right, so now you're selling real estate in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm going to bring up the map now, and you can see that, right?
yes, I can.
All right. So Brooklyn, New York, and I always like to zoom out so that anybody on the planet or the globe or out in outer space, whoever's watching this, can see where Brooklyn, New York is. So here's our globe here, and it's on the eastern side of the U.S., all the way pretty much. I mean, it is on the coast almost directly. Is there any? It does front to water, so you are
It does.
on the eastern coast. Yeah.
Well, if you're to
Um,
look in Brooklyn, Brooklyn's a peninsula. We are surrounded by water on three sides. No one thinks about that.
yeah, totally. You can see it right there. I never knew
We have
that.
the Atlantic Ocean. We have the East River, which goes into the Narrows, which is borders the Verrazano Bridge, then around to like Jamaica Bay on the other side. So we do have beaches. We have Manhattan Beach. We have Coney Island. We have Brighton Beach, and we have Manhattan Beach. So we have three beaches. And
Yeah,
no,
and
well, I was about to say the beach in the Bronx because I'm still a Bronx girl in there somewhere. In Brooklyn, we have the three beaches in Brooklyn.
awesome. And I'm definitely going to ask you more about that. I want to know what you do because I know it's colder up here. So you might not be doing the same things, but maybe in the hot place times you are. But everybody could see that Brooklyn is right there next to Manhattan. And you can see the Statue of Liberty is right there. So probably a lot of places in Brooklyn you can see that visually,
You can.
Manhattan and the skyline and everything. And this is funny. Google didn't give me the temperature and weather currently right there. So I'm assuming maybe it's because it thinks it's the same as where I am. I don't know. So
No.
what's the current temperature and weather there right now?
What are we currently? I haven't looked today. I know yesterday we were in the 30s here. It's been cold this week. I think we started off the week in the low 30s. We kind of hit 45 one day, and I think today it seems really cold. I haven't checked, but our temperature normally, winter will go down to the teens as the lowest. We never get really below zero, but we'll get in the teens. And then summertime we're about 90, some higher than 90 on certain days. So summer's hot, winters are cold, and we have all
Yeah,
four seasons.
that's what I figured. It was probably similar to now. I think we're a little bit colder today than you, but I figured you're probably right around the same climate, same temperature as we are here. So 30-ish degrees freezing, which is what it should be in January in the northeast of the U.S. And then I'm going to read the quick facts here, the little Google blurb about Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a borough of New York City, coextensive with Kings County in the U.S. state of New York. Kings County is the most populous county in New York State, as well as the second most densely populated county in the United States. It is also New York City's most populous borough with 2,736,074 residents in 2020. That's very specific. They could have rounded that off, but you got like 2.7
We have the
million
census,
people.
so they're
Yeah,
proud.
I mean, I get it, but there's got to be a margin of error there, right? But yeah. So it is very densely populated, which we all know. New York City and the surrounding areas is the most densely populated area around. And so tell us a little bit about what it's like there, as far as the landscape goes. Is it pretty flat? Is it hilly? I'm guessing because you're pretty much on the ocean, it's kind of flat everywhere.
Oh, well, I mean, it's flat. We do have our coastal flood zones, which is closer to the ocean coming in. But Park Slope actually is on a slope because it goes up to the park. So I mean, it's mostly flat. You have some, higher areas as you get further away from the water. The areas are higher, but I wouldn't call our us hilly, except for our buildings. Our buildings give us our landscape.
And as far as like trees and vegetation and what visually what stuff looks like, it's oak trees and pine trees and the typical kind of northeastern stuff that we would have in
Oak trees.
Pennsylvania or anywhere.
Not a lot of pine trees. We have oaks. We have actually I was looking it up. Prospect Park have over 109 species of trees. So I think if you're looking for any type of tree, you could probably hit it in Prospect Park.
Nice. You had a very good answer for that one. Usually my tree question doesn't get much. People know if it's palm trees or not palm trees. They don't know much else. So yeah, that's cool. And then anything else to, what's that?
I do my research. I prepare.
And then in that park, are there like hiking trails or anything? If you wanted
Yeah.
to go on a walk with shade. Oh, I guess you could get that
There's
on the
some.
roads too.
No, there's a shaded area. There is a trail that goes up that my son loves to go walk on, and I'm like petrified that he's walking in the. I'm like, don't go into the woods. And I'm one of those parents that looks at him on the map. You're not in the clearing, and he's like, oh my god, can you stop? And this is my 16-year-old, so yeah, I'm a little paranoid. But no, there's trails, but mostly Prospect Park. They have a really good biking and running track that goes around the park, and it's about a little over 3 miles. And there's a section there that is a steep hill. I remember back in the day, I used to rollerblade in the park when I was much younger. And so there's a steep hill going down, there's a steep hill going up. Going up that hill was a killer, but you had to really try to apply your brakes going down, even if you're biking. So we have one side is for bikes because they zoom, and then you have one side for people who are walking and running. But yeah, so everyone at any time of the day, you can find someone running or biking in Prospect Park. And then there's a meadow area where people lay out. There's also the pavilion where they have shows. Like in the summer, they have concerts and they have different artists performing.
Sounds
And
awesome.
there's
I
a
think you
little,
should get the rollerblades out again someday.
oh no no no. Just say I wouldn't be able to walk, whereas now the only thing you could do is rollerblade. I would be able to walk after I used a rollerblade.
Maybe a bike. Maybe you could stretch and do the bike.
Maybe I could do a bike. And speaking of bikes, we have city bikes, what they call city bikes now. Practically every or 3 or 4 blocks, there's a city bike. So they're bikes where they're electronically snapped in. You can get an app and you can become part of the program. So you could pick up a bike on one end of Prospect Park. You can literally ride it all the way down to Brooklyn Heights by the water, and you park it at another city bike spot. They don't come with helmets, but they come with a little basket. So if you're doing some groceries on your way home and you feel like you just want to grab a city bike and you brought your helmet, hopefully you're bringing your helmet, but
Yeah, they seem to be having those things and a lot of big cities now have the bikes and some have the little scooters, the motorized scooters. Those are super fun.
those would be
If
fun.
anybody,
I don't think we allow those here.
I wouldn't think so. It'd probably be dangerous in a place like that. But if anybody runs into those things, those will make your whole vacation. I get one the whole time and just get around like that if I could do that where I am. So what's the weather? If you're going to rent a bike or something, how many days a year could you be riding said bike around? Or if you, a lot of people probably live and walk places. Are you doing it in the rain a lot, or is it sunny a lot, or what's the weather like?
There's some bikers who no. So our rain comes in the typical season, which is spring, and we do get a lot of rain in the spring. So spring you could absolutely be riding. I think there are probably some diehards who, unless there's snow on the ground, they're riding. But pretty much all year round, except when there's snow, or except when, unfortunately, we get hit by some of the hurricanes as well. So unless we have some hurricane weather or some rainstorms, people are out.
And you get snow
our
there?
delivery people, our poor delivery people. Like we're big, or we order out a lot. So the delivery guys, the coolest thing is their handlebars is a glove. Like, you think about an oven mitt. So their handlebar is like an oven mitt. So they literally stick their hands into the oven mitt to drive around because they're delivering in all weathers. And they have mopeds. And some people complain they're on the sidewalk, but for those of us who like to order and get our food, we're like happy our food is delivered.
That's fun. And I know the things you're talking about, they sell them for like mountain biking and stuff too. I just wear really good gloves, but that would probably be even better, especially if you're going fast on a moped or something. That would be almost a must. And then do you get snow? They're out in the snow delivering things on the mopeds?
They're out in the snow. And then they probably use their bikes more than the mopeds, but no, they're out in the snow too.
And then do they plow? Is all your infrastructure good for getting rid of the snow when it comes? I'm sure you're up here where you get it enough that they have salt trucks and plows and whatnot.
Yeah, the city's really good with that. I think a couple of years ago, one of our mayors got caught out there because he wasn't prepared for the snow. Of course, he caught hell for that. But no, we're usually good at preparing for snow and clearing the streets. I mean, they get to most of the major streets pretty quickly.
And it looks here, I'm on bestplaces.net, and it says that the snowfall is 24.9 inches average per year, and the United States is 27.8, so just like a couple inches less than the average in the U.S. Precipitation, it's sunny 226 days of the year, so that's more than central Pennsylvania. We're almost exactly half, so you're doing better than us. And it says the average high, it's highest in July, the average is about 85 degrees, which is the exact same as the U.S. average, and the average low in January is around 26.5. So right now, that's probably what you said. It's a little bit higher than that, but still around that, and that's what we are here. So pretty normal if you're comparing it to central Pennsylvania. And then anything else about the weather? Do you get sleet and freezing rain? We seem to, as things we get less snow now and more freezing rain and sleet, which is almost worse. And they cancel things willy-nilly for that more than snow even.
Well, I mean, since we're mostly, I guess we're gonna how we move around, but most people are walking or taking the bus or the subway. It is hard to shut this city down. There's not much that's happening where we're shutting schools. Schools are the last things to close. I mean, you kind of wish your kids would get a snow day. My kid hasn't had they haven't had a snow day in years. Well, I mean, they were home last year, but before that, I can't remember the last time we had a snow day.
Yeah, I guess the only reason most of the schools around here now, nobody's coming from some place way out in the sticks with a half a mile long driveway where they can't get out, and the school bus drivers has to come from far away to do things. Almost every school district here probably has at least a couple people that applies to, and then they've got to cancel everything because we can't have those people dying trying to get here or whatever. So it makes sense that you would just, you better get your boots on and get out to school.
And we all have our boots. They have their boots, you have your hooded coat, you have your gloves, you're ready to go.
Nice. And then what about commuting? So we talked about a little bit, obviously, when you commute to the city, you're usually not using your own car. Do people own cars and they just store them somewhere? Or what do you do as far as a car and not having a car?
About 40% of the people in Brooklyn own cars. So, and the streets, it's evidenced by if you walk down any block in Brooklyn, there's not a single parking spot available. And a lot of the new buildings that are being built, they're being built with parking spaces. I think there was a requirement that if you're over a certain number of units in the city, you had to provide parking, but still it's not parking for everyone. So you do have about 40% of people who have cars, and I think about the same amount of people work in Brooklyn or they're commuting. And if you're commuting to Manhattan or even within Brooklyn, we have a very extensive transit system, which is bus and subway. It's $2.75 per ride each way right now. So most people are driving, and then Uber. Ubers are big in New York, and if you're trying to get into the city, depending on where you are, you're either 15 if you're about in Brooklyn Heights, 15 minutes into the city. If you're Park Slope, you're probably about 25 minutes, like the touch, the bottom of Manhattan, 25, 30 minutes, or 45 minutes to an hour to get into Manhattan, which we call the city. So I know it may sound weird. Like if you're in the outer boroughs, everyone calls Manhattan the city.
It makes sense. It's more than the city than where you are. You might be more than the city than where we are, but yeah, that's more city than where you are. And then what about the trains? Is that something you have to get like a monthly pass or a membership, or you buy tokens, or do they use tokens anymore? Or
we used to use tokens, but now we're actually to the point where you can, there's an electronic thing where you can use your Apple Pay or something to pay per ride. Or you could buy an old-fashioned Metro card, and you could buy a single-use card. Like for one day, you could put as much money as you want on the card. You could buy a weekly pass or a monthly 30-day pass.
Huh. And do you get any break for buying a bunch at a time, or it's the same no matter what?
I think maybe 50 cents or something. But then your card has a weird value on it. So most people just refill their current card until I don't know if you ever use up the weird little cents that you get. I mean, they should just give you one free ride instead of giving you 50 cents or something, because it's ridiculous.
So what is an instance for somebody to use a car? So it's at 40% of people own one. That might even be going down with Uber getting more and Turo and being able to like, even if you want to drive a car, you could get another car to even drive if you wanted to. So how would, when you do want to drive somewhere, what would be a situation where you would say, all right, I got to drive to this place?
If you're a homeowner,
Going away from the city?
No, within the city. A lot of people drive around the city. If you're a homeowner, you're going to Home Depot, or if you're going to one of the big box stores like Costco, you do a big grocery run. I mean, I used to drive just to get groceries because it's easier to drive. And I mean, there's so much parking. I mean, there's a lot of metered parking too, like in the busy areas. So if you're trying to just go do something quickly, or if you're going to like we have the Atlantic Mall, if you're going, there's parking underneath there. So most people drive around Brooklyn to do things, visit family. If you're visiting family, you're doing that. And of course, if you're going to the beaches, or I mean, I think a lot of the driving people do is within the borough. So I don't think people have cars because they're traveling outside mostly. I mean, some people clearly who commute for work, they do, but people just have it for luxury. I mean, leisure.
Sure. Gotcha. Yeah.
Luxurious leisure item.
And then what about tolls? Obviously, you're not driving any vast distances like the PA Turnpike for 3 hours east to west
But
or
the
something.
bridges,
But yeah, bridges. You pay tolls on bridges?
yeah. With the and tunnels. So we have the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. It connects Brooklyn to Manhattan and Lower Manhattan. Brooklyn Bridge is free. The Manhattan Bridge is free. The Verrazano Bridge, and that's the way you get out into New Jersey by going through Staten Island. So the Verrazano Bridge connects Brooklyn to Staten Island, and then Staten Island connects you to the Turnpike. I forgot how much it is right now. I haven't driven over the bridges in a long time, but you pay for the. And then we have the Triborough Bridge. The Triborough Bridge is at the top, which connects Brooklyn to the Bronx and Manhattan. Hence the Triboroughs.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. And then are you tossing quarters in these things, or is it Easy Pass or something?
Easy Pass now, and for those who don't have Easy Pass, they scan your license and then they bill you.
So you don't even have to have the Easy Pass. You just drive through it and they
No,
bill
you
you,
just drive
and you
through
just
it
have to
and
sign
they
up
bill
for
you.
an account or whatever.
Oh no, you could pay it. You could pay it directly without having an account, but they're quick to, either I think suspend your license and stuff like that, or send you stuff in the mail if you take too long to pay your tolls.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense. These days you don't even I didn't know why don't they just make cars with like it built into it somehow and you put your credit card number into
Some
the
people
car.
can't. I mean, some people for whatever reason can't afford to like keep a credit card on because I mean our city is very diverse. We have our economic structure is very diverse as well. I mean, you have a lot of rich people. You have people who are getting by. So there are a lot of reasons why people can't have a Metro card. I mean, an Easy Pass.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. They need to pay with cash or check
Yep,
or whatever the
exactly.
case is. Yeah, totally. And then what are the major industries and employers? Seems like a dumb thing to ask when we're talking about
No,
where you
no,
are, but
absolutely not.
what are the major ones?
So tech,
Entertainment obviously is one, right?
yeah, well, yes. I mean, I think one of the major things is our services industry, restaurants, supermarkets, hotels. But we actually have a huge tech sector that's down in Dumbo. Actually, Etsy has their headquarters here, like Vice Media. There's a company called Amplify. We have the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is a lot of textile and manufacturing. So there's a lot of clothing manufacturers, jewelry manufacturers, metallic and manufacturers, and it also houses Starter Studios, which is one of I think, the 20 acres and 7 studios. So to say outside of Hollywood, it's one of the larger movie studios in the U.S. In addition, Metro Tech Center in downtown Brooklyn, J.P. Morgan has one of their headquarters there. We have a lot of banks and our hospitals. We have like at least 5 or 6 hospitals. So I think the medical industry is big here. So I think you could find basically, I mean, anything in Brooklyn.
So all those things you just mentioned are actually in Brooklyn, not
In
like
Brooklyn.
surrounding or in
In Brooklyn.
Manhattan or something. Those are all actually in Brooklyn, based there, offices
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess it's a huge place. What did it say? 2.7
Seven.
million people there. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So there's also, I'm guessing, a kind of a food and arts district or a Golden Mile or like an old downtown or something.
So it's different. When you're thinking about food, you have your cultural areas. So you have little pockets like you have. Little Caribbean or Chinatown. You have areas. I mean, I think if you're looking for any type of ethnic food, there's an area where you could go get that in Brooklyn. I think every little, and we have lots of neighborhoods in Brooklyn. So the main avenues or the main streets in those areas, it's tons of restaurants, a lot of mom and pop shops, little clothing stores. We have a lot of 99-cent stores that are around. A lot of what we call bodegas. Bodegas is like your corner grocery store where you can go get your essentials.
We call them corner stores.
Yeah, well, see, we call them bodegas.
Nice. I wonder where that word. What's the origin of that word? Is that what language? I wonder.
Bodega, it's Spanish, and it's awful that I do not know what it means. Please don't kill me, my Spanish people. But
it means corner store.
Yeah, maybe it's corner store, but now they're starting to call them in the gentrified areas gourmet delis. It's a bodega with higher prices because you have some organic food, but we know you were a bodega.
Yeah, I don't even like that. I like bodega. Like if I was coming also from outside and wanted the local culture, which seems cooler than trying to rename the culture, I would want just a nice bodega.
Well, no, but the people coming outside, I think with gourmet, you'd want to go to the gourmet deli.
Yeah, let's go to the gourmet bodega.
Lots of coffee shops, and there we have a lot of brewery. Microbrewing. I think there's a microbrewing company here. So a lot of these breweries, Brooklyn has a lot of their home craft beers or craft beers. So you have a lot of those little restaurants and places around as well.
And then you mentioned medical. There's hospitals, so everybody has medical employment where they are. You've got the city offering all kinds of stuff. You mentioned all kinds of things that are centered right in there. Are there any colleges? You mentioned your son goes to the city. You went to the city. Are there colleges in Brooklyn?
Yep, there's Brooklyn College. There's Long Island University has a campus out here. There's St. Joseph's College. There's Medgar Evers College. Yeah, there are a lot of colleges in Brooklyn.
Awesome. And then what else is there to do other than the food that we talked about a little bit? I'm guessing there's tons of food. Well, actually, before we start talking about things other than food, what's your, maybe shout out a favorite restaurant of yours that you like to hit up?
So
something ethnic too. Hit me up with something ethnic.
Well, yeah, because so outside of Flan, my favorite food is Caribbean food, and my favorite restaurant is The Grill Brooklyn, which is in Park Slope on Fifth Avenue between Carroll and Garfield.
And what's your favorite meal there?
My favorite meal there is probably the oxtails. And they have this really good saltfish spring rolls. So if you want the saltfish spring roll, it's really good.
So what's an oxtail? It's not actually an oxtail.
Absolutely it is oxtails. Oxtails are little pieces of oxtails that's made into a stew. It's like a nice oxtails is it's like one of the staple Caribbean dishes. I can't believe you haven't heard of oxtails or you've never had oxtails.
Huh. So is it like it's cut into like medallions? Isn't there bone in a tail? Isn't it like tough? I don't even understand.
Center, the meat is around, and then part of that is if it's like picture a beef stew. You like to get into that bone and all the marrow that's in there helps make the stew better. So it's kind of like it's an oxtail stew. It's usually served with peas and rice with some plantains on the side.
So how big is the tail? Like a thumb size, or how thick around is it?
Well, so you could get oxtail pieces that are this big. The bone is maybe this small, and then the meat will go out around it.
Huh. Okay.
And then it comes to smaller pieces, but I'm assuming they're giving the ox hormones like they're giving everything else right now. So maybe those tails are getting a little bigger.
Right. And then there is something you discard. So if I take a piece of the soup or the stew and I get it, the bone, you got to make sure you don't crunch down on it.
A good beef stew or a chicken stew with the bone parts of it, which we used to do, we don't throw away the bone. Yeah, you get rid of the bone after you get all the meat from around it. That's the fun part. If you're eating a chicken wing, there's a chicken bone. What do you do with the bone?
This is true, yeah. And it sounds like the bone's so small. There's no marrow. You're not like digging the marrow out.
There's marrow if you want to get to the marrow, but usually the marrow comes out into the stew.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then what else other than food is there to do?
Oh, so they have, it's a huge bar. And before COVID, they would go sometimes until 2 a.m. on the weekends. So they have live music on Wednesdays. And if you're in there, try to rum punch. And shout out to my favorite bartender over there, Deborah and Courtney.
And then do they ever have like like first Fridays or first Thursdays or like arts and tours or festivals or
The
like
Brooklyn
pop-up
Museum.
festivals, I guess I would call them, or anything like that?
So the Brooklyn Museum used to have first Fridays. What was it? The first Saturdays, where did it have a party? Certain DJs or whatever the theme was. But yeah, used to be a huge event. I don't think they're doing it anymore during COVID. There's, like I said, in Prospect Park, you have the summer series where they have the band shell. We have the Brooklyn Academy of Music, which is the center for all of the arts from film all the way to opera. We actually have the Barclays Center, which is the home of the Brooklyn Nets, and that's also a music venue. And before you ask me, because I know I have it here for you, if I can get to where's my Barclays Center, Mr. Justin Bieber will be there from March 31st to April 1st.
Oh wow, you have watched a couple episodes. When? March.
March 31st to April 1st, 2 nights.
There you go. So you don't even have to go into the city. You got it right there in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and then Elton John's going to be there on March 2nd. So, and then Disney on Ice is there right now. So in between the Nets home games, you have a lot of other artists coming in. And Williamsburg has a lot of little like these indie music venues where you can find more of like your up and coming artists and maybe some rap artists and those sort of things. So Williamsburg has become like a little cultural hub for those sort of things. Aside if you want to go to Peter Luger's Steakhouse, that's also in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. You don't have to go to Manhattan for it.
Do you ever have fireworks on like July 4th or Labor Day or any of that kind of stuff?
Coney Island has fireworks all the time, but most of us can probably we go to downtown Brooklyn. We go to Dumbo, and along the waterfront, we can see the fireworks that's in the East River. So Manhattan, the city usually has Fourth of July fireworks. It's either on the East River, which is on our side, or on the West Side Highway. But if it's on the East River, we can go by the water and we can see it. And actually, if you're further in on Brooklyn, which does go up, some people can see it if they're in a high rise from further in Brooklyn. You can actually see the fireworks from a distance away.
Okay. Can you charge more for a firework view?
I think we absolutely charge more for a city view.
Totally.
Even if
And
you
then
can just
what? Tell everybody. Go ahead.
No, even if you can see it, just you have to peep out the bathroom window and turn your head to this angle, and you can see one of the buildings in Manhattan. You have a city view, okay?
Yeah, you can put it in the description, in the remarks.
It qualifies. I can see the city.
Totally. And then for those that don't know and may have been living under a rock for the last, I don't know how many, 100 years maybe, where is Coney Island and what is Coney Island?
So Coney Island is it's a beach. Also, it's a stretch of beach at the bottom of Brooklyn. So when you look at Brooklyn, the very bottom is Coney Island. And the famous Nathan's hot dogs and the hot dog eating competition in the summer is in Coney Island. They have a Ferris wheel. They have it's called the Cyclone. The Cyclone is actually the roller coaster. They also have a Ferris wheel, and they redid the boardwalk a little while ago. People go there in the summer and they hang out. And then there's also a lot of music stars that are in Coney Island, and there's also a music venue there as well. So there are concerts on Coney Island as well. There you go.
Is that just a sculpture? That's just a sculpture. You can't go up in that thing.
No, I think that works. You're probably looking at the older one, but yeah, everything works.
The Wonder Wheel, that looks like a staple, something that's been there forever and you have to go on. Is that the case?
Yep, the Wonder Wheel. And then there's some newer rides, and they have some like little rides and games and stuff. So it's a nice little our boardwalk activity.
Is Coney Island where did you ever see the movie Lost Boys?
Was Lost Boys filmed in Coney Island? It might have been.
It was someplace like that.
It was filmed in New York, and Moonstruck and some other movies. So we're a lot of movies and a lot of shows are filmed.
And Big, maybe. Was it Big on some?
Boardwalk
Really?
Empire was filmed in Coney Island. There's your boardwalk.
Not in Atlantic City.
No, Boardwalk Empire was actually filmed in Brooklyn.
That's cool. Nice.
I think a lot of it was filmed in Sterner Studios.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And then where do your go-to driving vacation? Obviously, you've got what JFK. If you want to fly somewhere abroad, you can get anywhere pretty easily.
Yeah.
But then if you are driving vacation, I mentioned before we got on that New Jersey, I just heard was the vacation capital of the
Yeah.
world. And probably because it's so close to so many people. Is that where you guys go, the Jersey Shore, or do you guys go somewhere else?
If I am leaving, if I my vacation is to a Caribbean beach, so that's for me. But there are a lot of
So
people
you're
who
using JFK to get out.
using JFK to get out, and there's also LaGuardia, and those are the two main airports in Brooklyn. A lot of people they drive to the Jersey Shore in the summer. Of course, you'll be staying over if you're doing that. There's some places up in like the Poconos, upstate New York. There's like a Kalahari Resorts where it's like a huge indoor water center. And in the winter they do like ski activities indoors as well. And then you have those little cheesy couple things in the Poconos where you could get a room with a heart-shaped bed and a little champagne glass bath. And so
Yeah, we know the Poconos here. We go to the Poconos a lot too. It's probably
that's right.
yeah, yeah, and it's every time I go there, and I've been to I've been to the resort and the blah blah blah, all those places. But a lot of the places up there, it's like a time capsule. It's still the same as
Yeah,
it was in the '80s, whenever it was like the boom, and then it kind of died a little bit, I think, and they never renovated anything, and now it's having a little bit of a resurgence. But I remember the last room I stayed in there was straight out of the '80s. They didn't change a thing. The
rug
phone with the
bugs.
dial was still there. It was kind of awesome, actually. I liked it a
Actually,
little
no.
bit.
So I do drive out of the city, but I drive to the casinos. But there's a casino in Pennsylvania that I go to, and I forgot the name of it. But that was actually a little closer to Atlantic City. So I used to go to Atlantic City, and what is that? I forgot. Bethlehem. It's in Bethlehem, the casino.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
small one in Pennsylvania. Yep.
I'm sure Atlantic City could use your business. So hit up Atlantic City if you want to go gambling. They've been hurting lately, I
Not
think.
right now, but yeah, even though they give me free rooms, I'm not going right now.
Yeah. You must be losing a lot. If they're handing out free rooms, you know you're spending enough money for that. Yeah, let her stay here for free for a night. Free booze, free steaks. You're good. So let's tell everybody what they get for the money. Obviously, your market is vastly different than us here in central Pennsylvania and a lot of people all over the planet, really, because like you said, you are the capital of the planet, really, New York and the surrounding area. So let's compare it to here. Here we're starting at about, I'd say 300,000 would get you a two-story, quarter acre, maybe built in the 80s, 50s to 80s, probably a two-car garage, not all renovated and everything. Maybe if it is, you're fighting over it right now and spending an extra 20 on it or something. But I would say around 300 family could get into, or a non-family, whoever it is, could get into the kind of the starter American dream home. So first of all, what is the starter? Do you even have that kind of product there? And then what is kind of the entry level? And then we'll talk about the luxury after that.
So if you're thinking about starter home, first home, you're probably buying an apartment. And you're probably starting with a studio apartment or a one-bedroom apartment. And you're either buying a co-op or a condo. Co-ops are cheaper, but you're buying into a cooperative. Technically, it's a company. You're buying shares, where a condo, you're actually owning real property. You're still owning real property, but the transaction is different. You have a deed. So, for instance, I just pulled this from our fourth quarter report. Studio co-ops are 325. Starting at 325, you get a studio co-op that's about 400, a little over 400 square feet. So that is what you could get for about 300,000 in Brooklyn. And if you're looking for a one bedroom co-op is about 450. Then you have two bedrooms about 725. But condos are more expensive. So that same studio that you could get as a co-op for 325, you're getting for around 600 as a condo. And then the one bedrooms are closer to 7. Two bedrooms, you're between 9 something. You can find them a little lower. So the closer you are to the city, the more expensive it is. The further out you go into Brooklyn, the least expensive it is. So my area is more northwest Brooklyn. So that's basically our prices. But these averages throughout Brooklyn. And then when you think about your single family homes, you're between, like, if you're closer to the city, between a million to a million, 1.2. And then your multi-families, you're like 1.4 and up, depending if it's a two-family, 2 to 4 families is technically like your multi-families. But there are pockets here and there where you can find things like maybe you can find a 2 bedroom in the 300s, co-ops if you're going more towards Coney Island, Sheepshead Bay area. You're going more south Brooklyn. So South Brooklyn is a little cheaper. North Brooklyn into Williamsburg is much more expensive. And then you have your Northwest Brooklyn, which is like Brooklyn Heights, Dumbo, coming back all the way into Prospect Park. That's, more expensive coming into least expensive.
And then when you say single family, I'm picturing a brownstone townhouse. Is that what it is essentially, or is it something different?
Okay, so our Brownstone, Brooklyn, those were never single families. Those were built in the past. They were actually no, they were single families in the past, and they probably cut them up into 2 to 3 or 4 families, and then
On
some
top of
people.
each other,
Well,
stacked.
yeah, so you have one building going up. Each floor is an apartment, and then or you call it a duplex. So if you're using 2 floors as one apartment, then that's a duplex apartment. So my building, for instance, was a 4 story. It was a 4 family 4 story. So every floor was technically legally allowed to be its own apartment. If you have your own kitchen, the kitchen and bathroom is an apartment. But we use it as a duplex, an owner's duplex that most people do. They'll use what we call the garden floor, meaning you walk back out into your garden. The parlor is the floor above the garden. So people will use their garden and their parlor as the owner's duplex, and then they'll rent out the 2 units above. Some people do the same, even if it's a 2 family, you have your owner's duplex with 1 rental, or 3 family, 2 rentals. Or the people who bought my building turned it back into a 4 family, and but it's really tough doing like a 20 by 45, and that's 20 by 45 apartment into a 2 bedroom or 1 bedroom apartment. It's really small. So we have a lot of small bedrooms here.
So what would a single family be then?
So a single family, you'll find it. So, okay, if you're rich, you could take one of those 2, 3 families, 4 story buildings, and make it a single family. You're paying like 1 point something for it. Or technically a single family if you're further out in Brooklyn, and we're talking about, East Brooklyn, east, more east than the north or south. It looks like it's a 2 story brick, usually with like a brick to the front porch, or we do some clapboard, some siding homes, um, and that with a driveway. So usually that's like a typical single family, but those are hard to find like in the more populated areas. But we do have one
Huh.
section of the Midwood where you have like they look like little mini mansions that you would find any place else around the country. They're your regular siding buildings with like lots of windows all around 3 or 4 stories with like your chimneys and stuff, and they're probably on like at least a quarter acre of land. You have your driveway to drive back in. It's like a section in the middle of Brooklyn called Midwood with those large homes.
So
Those are
most are
the
not.
main.
You're not going to have a garage, or do they have a garage like behind? Do you have alleys in there? Like in our cities, most the bigger cities have the road and the big house, and then if they have a garage, if it's still
We don't have
standing because all
space
those
for
houses are
alleys.
old, no alleys.
No, we need to utilize that space. Nobody has an alley. What they have is a shared driveway. Like those houses that I spoke about, those 1 families, they have space in between the houses that are shared driveways. So behind your house, you can have a garage, but you share the driveway to drive into your garage, or you park in the driveway.
Gotcha. Huh. And then do most people are these are I'm picturing dense roads and streets with big trees and everything's old. So it's all old. Are these McMansions or whatever you call them? They're still old. They're still 1900s,
Yes, they're
1920
old.
built or
Yeah,
something. They're
yeah.
not new.
No,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not. They're
Is there
old and
anything new anywhere?
oh, well, tons of new buildings. Oh, we have tons of new construction. I mean, if you look at the skyline, I think what are we going to have? One of the tallest buildings in the close to the city coming up in Brooklyn. And I think they tried to lower the spire to not make it as tall as the I want to call it the World Trade, but it's not. But yeah, we have a building going up right now. City Point is pretty high, so we have a lot of new development around downtown Brooklyn in Bed-Stuy. Bed-Stuy, they're building a lot of new buildings down into Homecrest, like Midwood. So there are a lot of new along Fourth Avenue and Park Slope. They changed the ordinance there a long time ago, where technically you only stick to 4 stories in certain areas, and they changed the residential requirements to allow the buildings just on Fourth Avenue to go up to, I believe they're up to like 11 stories now. But so we had a bunch of new buildings pop up on Fourth Avenue. in
Huh.
parts of
And
it.
then if you're a luxury market person there, which have to be pretty high to get into what you would consider as luxury. Here, your luxury market, you couldn't even get a property here for that. You could get like 10 properties. So is the luxury market, are the higher price things, do those end up now being the penthouses in these new high rises, or is that the highest priced real estate
Yes.
around there?
Yeah, and you can get penthouses even closer to Dumbo, like 6 million, 6, 7 million. Some of them for maybe a 3 bedroom, maybe a 4 bedroom penthouse. I think, and the average size of the 2 bedrooms in some of these newer buildings are close to 2 million.
And is it some of it spillover from the city? People that may want to be in the city or like to be in the city, but they can't afford it, or you just can't find something, or whatever the case may be, and now it's kind of spreading out.
I think it started that way. I think it started that people were finding it cheaper in Brooklyn, but you have people who've moved to Brooklyn, and it's a different feel. So Brooklyn is it's an absolute different feel from Manhattan. So people who moved to Brooklyn, they just don't want to move back. They like, I mean, it's very culturally diverse. I mean, it's a little more spread out than Manhattan. You have lots of green areas, especially if you're down by the Brooklyn waterfront right now. I mean, there's a soccer field, there's a putting green, I think it's more than a putting green, like a hitting range there. They really built it up with lots of trees. There's a
I can
carousel.
tell you golf because you know exactly what everything's going.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
kidding.
I use my 9 iron, and I'll get out there. There's a carousel on the Brooklyn waterfront.
Oh, nice.
A
Yeah.
glass.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to ask you. We are running a little bit long, but I do want to ask you when we were talking about things to do, and you mentioned beaches. So, do people like surf and snorkel and scuba and fish and all the normal stuff that you would think about at a beach place?
I think our waters. Well, if you go out to like Jones Beach in Long Island, I think that's rough. That's a very rough water, so people can surf there. I think people just sunbathe like at the beaches around here in Brooklyn. People fish in the East River, so people are fishing for
Ill-advised
entertainment.
fishing?
Huh?
Ill-advised fishing? Maybe
Yeah,
fun to fish, maybe just don't eat it.
no, exactly. Fun to
Yeah.
fish, just don't eat. There's a pond in Prospect Park, but I don't see fishing in there. I think if you fish, you have to probably catch and return.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because it's a fixed body of water. All the fish would be gone if everybody fished and
And
kept
we
them.
have ducks there who probably will, ducks, a few geese,
Nice.
swans, no geese.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, swans can be. So the geese bring lots of poop, but the swans are mean and will fight you and chase you and bite you, which is
I've
not
only
a
seen
good
one
thing.
or two, mostly ducks.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. The swans are. Watch out for swans. If they act like don't come over here, don't go over there. Anything else to say about the market, or it's January of 2022 right now? Are you starving for inventory like everywhere else?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're starting for inventory. I'm just letting my buyers know, hey, we're only in the third week of January. Things are coming out, but there are deals to be had right now because if something has been on the market, let's make an offer. And if you're waiting, you haven't found the perfect thing yet, then we could keep looking. But review your list, look back at the things that you saw, and I'm having people right now just make a list of what you liked and what you didn't like, so we know when that thing comes on the market that we can jump on it. Like, let's not be still in the looking phase when inventory comes in. Let's know exactly what we want because once new inventory comes in, so are new buyers. And I think that's what we went into last year. We had low inventory, and then as soon as inventory came in, I mean, we had people who were paying, people were paying more on rentals. People were bidding more on rentals to get a rental apartment right after we came out of a slump. So you can imagine how much I had a client who bid, she bid like 35,000 over on an apartment and lost it because we were the lowest bid. We were the lowest.
Do people ever kind of create their own co-op? Like, so you're saying a lot of the properties are already split up into apartment style living, and maybe it's still one deed, one tax parcel, whatever. Do people ever say, hey, me and my friend, our two families are gonna get together. They'll take the bottom two, the what'd you call it, the garden and the parlor, and then the penthouse and the whatever you call the
Well,
other
you
floors?
do. I think most of the people who own brownstones or townhouses, you're creating a condo as opposed to a co-op. You can sell it for more money. It's independently. You can run it together in a small board. But But four families, there are a lot of four families now. You have condos in the Park Slope area. There are a lot of condos for those markets, and then they create the smaller buildings, create co-ops. Yeah, but most you would do a condo, and you would probably try to utilize it and do like for us like a four family. You do the duplex because you get more money, and then the two apartments.
Gotcha. And then are there like in the high rises, obviously that's a higher price point probably, but in these new big buildings going up, are there other units available? Are there waiting lists on those kind of things, or what's the deal that?
No, I mean a lot of the new constructions. I mean, until they get their final certificate, they get on the market before they get their final certificate of occupancy, their CFO. So a lot of people you could go into contracts and wait 2 or 3 months before you can close and actually move in. So depending on where you are, so Bed-Stuy have a lot. They have a lot of those, like smaller buildings, like you just said, where they've literally taken the townhouse, converted it into condos, and now they're selling each unit for 600. The penthouse is probably 700 or 800,000. Maybe you get one apartment for 499 for a very small apartment, 595 depending. And that's in Bed-Stuy. The newer buildings going up in downtown Brooklyn. Now that's where you're seeing $1 million for $2 million up for a 2 bedroom, slightly under $1 million for a 1 bedroom.
Huh. Oh, and then I do want to move on because I got to ask you what you want to be other than a realtor. But so HOAs in something like, well, let's do it. Let's do it in that 4 unit. What's a HOA? What kind of fees are you paying or towards any kind of HOA thing? And then in a high rise, what's a fee that you might expect?
So if you're converting into a condo, your HOA, so we have common charges and we have taxes. If you're doing any sort of renovation, your taxes are going up. Average taxes right now is about $6,000 a year, 5 to 6,000 on a four family. If you'll probably go up to maybe 8 or something. So of course you divide the taxes out equally based on square footage within the 4 units. And your common charges, if you're doing it yourself manage, you're hiring someone to do the snow, to take out the garbage, you're probably like $200 a month or something. Your high-rise building now, what the city's doing based on your amenities. So if you put in a gym and you have a roof deck and those sorts of things, I've seen taxes in some of these new buildings now that are 600, 700, 800, just on the taxes. And then the common charges, if they're hiring a company to manage it, you're about 400 or 500. So I've seen in total common charges go above $1,000. Like sometimes you're 1,300, 1,200.
All right. I was actually expecting worse, so it's not too bad, I don't think, because we even have a couple communities.
On the 6-7 million, your common charge of your tax is about 5,000 a month or more.
Well, if you're rolling like that, you should be all right to be able to handle that, I think, maybe. So to make a bunch of millions of dollars so you could buy one of these penthouses in these new things, what other profession would you be? What else would you do other than real estate?
So when I was in corporate America, I said I'd like to be a lady who lunches. And then I was a lady who lunches when I left. But so I would like to be a lady who lunches with millions of dollars that I use to invest in properties and, do the old community service, be on this board or that board. So yes, but there's a lovely, there's a reel that goes, I do not dream about work, darling. I do not aspire to work. So that's where I am. I do not aspire to work.
Nice. There you go. I like that. I haven't had that one, so it's definitely unique. And if you're a lady that lunches, usually they have some kind of gaudy hats or they have a different hat every day. They're definitely all to the nines all the time. But so do you have a collection of hats that you would break out?
No, we will be wearing no hats. Okay. I will use my crown, my natural crown.
You got some pretty good hair there. That's a nice head of hair. Jet black. I like it.
Thank you.
So let's tell everybody where they can find you if they want to reach out to you. Say your number, your email, and your website aloud. And I forgot to uncapitalize that M in triplemint.com, but that's all right. So say it all aloud so anybody that might be listening rather than watching later can get your information.
Absolutely. So it's Marcia. My name is Marcia.Dufresne. So it's Marcia.Dufresne@triplemint.com. You can find me by my name on either IG or Twitter or TikTok. And then on Facebook, my professional page is Marcia.Dufresne RE. But I was able to get my name everywhere, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Oh well, it's probably not too common, which is good. when it comes to getting websites and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll have all your Facebooks and socials and Instagrams and YouTubes and whatever Marcia has will be in the description above or below or wherever you're watching or listening. Be sure to contact me if you're buying or selling a home here in central Pennsylvania or anywhere on the planet. I can connect you to our vast network of realtors across the country, just like Marcia in Brooklyn, New York. And if you want to go somewhere else in New York, because I know it's kind of a small area, but there are pockets of different kind of markets there. I'm sure Marcia has somebody there. If you need anybody, reach out to me, call me, text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. I want to hear from you, whether you're moving here in central Pennsylvania, in or out of the area, or anywhere on the planet, like I said. Thanks again for watching and listening, everybody. And a reminder, I'm adding this like I did at the top of the show. Hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell if you're watching on Instagram so you can get notified every time we come out with new episodes about what it's like to move to different places across our beautiful planet. Thanks again, and say goodbye, Marcia.